It's 1969, Lucknow, India. Rabia, a woman in her 30s wearing a sari, is smoking a hand-rolled cigarette filled with Prince Henry tobacco. Her wavy black hair is astray in the wind as she distributes wages to the dozen rickshaw pullers who are her first entrepreneurial venture. Early next morning, she's driving her 3 children and 2 of the neighbors' kids to school in her green Fiat, the only woman in a parking lot full of men. At night, she will return to the small pharmacy she's invested in and work until closing time at 11 p.m. Those are images of my mother, the unlikely dissident who taught me everything I know about courage. Dutiful wife, savior of the sick, daughter of a patriarchy who broke all the rules and rewrote her narrative. Mother was stubborn, with a superhuman ability to handle failure. She nonchalantly defied the odds and earned a medical degree late in her 50s after she founded the first private nursing home in the city. I rarely saw her cry or complain as we struggled financially in the early years. When she was denied loans to start her business because banks did not lend to women, she mortgaged her own jewelry. This selfless and unglamorous woman who had never stepped outside her city taught me to question the status quo and take on the world. Today, lost in the foggy, mystic corridors of dementia, my mother asks me about the world, and I tell her stories I hope she understands. Stories of fearless, irrepressible women just like her. I tell her about Syria, a country decimated by war, by power-hungry tyrants whose cruelties have caused thousands of deaths and 11 million people to flee their homes. Some have seen their parents get blown up, others their children gunned down, victims of a war they did not create. 5 million refugees have escaped Syria, taking perilous journeys across deserts and raging seas to seek shelter. They have been raped, shot, and humiliated, and made pawns in a political game. I went to Lebanon to help some of them. I expected people who were angry, bitter, and hopeless. Instead, I encountered some of the most gracious and beautiful people I have met, especially the women. Women who endured harsh circumstances in makeshift tents and went about their lives with composure and grace, caring for orphan children, tending to the elderly, even extending hospitality to the volunteers. I met little girls who, despite their trauma, possessed an angelic demeanor, girls who laughed like flowers and shone like the sun. Children of a different God, whose tragedy had bestowed them with a magical power to inspire hope and joy. Mother smiles as she looks at my photos of Syrian girls, audacious stars that shine the brightest. In London, I met Sue Austin, an artist from Devon, South England, who uses her disability as a springboard for superhuman feats and created an awe-inspiring underwater ballet near Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt.
For me, the wheelchair becomes a vehicle for transformation, and creating the spectacle is about creating new ways of seeing, being, and knowing.
This artistic spectacle unshackles the imagination and makes the spirit soar. She has transformed the wheelchair, a symbol of limitation, into a metaphor for limitless possibility. Sue, a gentle and charismatic superstar, is empowering millions of people who have seen her performance to dream, to create, to transcend their constraints and fly.
Their eyes literally light up and they see things like, I want one of those, or if you can do that, I can do anything. And
She showed me that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things. Who knows what boundaries she will cross next?
I saw more than 50 people killed while I was there. Some of them refused to convert. Some refused to learn how to kill others. My sister was killed in the camp.
Human beings are capable of unimaginable depravity, and Boko Haram is one of the deadliest terrorist outfits in the world. In April 2014, they kidnapped 276 schoolgirls from Chibok, Nigeria, to sell as sex slaves. The girls, some of them as young as 12 and 13, were raped, married off to Boko Haram leaders, and forced to convert to Islam. They were also used as suicide bombers. Boko Haram fighters strapped explosives to their chests and gave them detonators to squeeze when they were in crowded civilian areas where they would kill hundreds of people. Unlike their savage captives, these girls possessed a bold humanitarian spirit that prevailed over fear. 50 of them escaped. Like Aisha, a 15-year-old who considered blowing herself up without hurting anyone else. Instead, she approached Nigerian soldiers and persuaded them to carefully remove the explosives. Or Amina, who was only 16 and was told to kill worshippers at a mosque but refused. Or Fatih, who walked into a police station holding the bag containing the bomb. The officers saw her and fled, but she talked them into helping. Many of the girls have since been returned. Their stories of fortitude and resilience light up the soul. Some are still captive. The world needs to renew its efforts to rescue them. Mother had a fear of water. She didn't know how to swim and was worried sick when I went near the ocean. In the summer of 2017 in France, I read about Anne Dufour-Montel. She was a psychoanalyst and philosopher and a professor at the European Graduate School. Anne's work focused on risk-taking. She said that absolute security and zero risk are fantasies. When asked about the new security measures in France after recent terrorist attacks, Anne replied that fear was wielded as a political weapon to control people. In her book, In Praise of Risk, she encouraged people to embrace fear and risk-taking as part of the human experience and live a brave life. On July 21, 2017, Anne was on Pampelon Beach near Saint-Tropez. The weather had been safe to swim, but it changed suddenly and the sea turned treacherous. She saw 2 children in danger and dived in to rescue them. She helped save the children, but lost her own life. I've thought of Anne Dufour-Montel on many lonely plane rides across the Atlantic Ocean. and what her act of courage meant to the mothers of the children she helped save. I saw the supreme example of courage, integrity, and authenticity in practice, not just words. India is a beautiful land of wild contradictions and cruel injustices. We worship numerous goddesses and are taught to respect and protect our women. But every day, over 100 women are raped, of whom 40% are minors. Thousands of cases are unreported. Rampant toxic masculinity and misogyny make India one of the most hostile and dangerous countries for women. Lakshmi Agarwal was only 15 when a 32-year-old man made advances at her. When she refused to reciprocate, he and his friends poured acid on her face, disfiguring her for life. There are more than 1,000 reported acid attacks on women every year, and hundreds that never come to light for fear of reprisal. An overburdened legal system, a society heavily skewed in favor of men, results in few convictions and emboldens savage Indian machismo. But Lakshmi, like millions of other Indian women who rise above these savageries every day, cannot be extinguished by chemicals. Through hunger strikes, protests, and sheer courage, Lakshmi forced the country to confront this deadly crime. She persuaded the Supreme Court to regulate the sale of acid and make it easier to prosecute acid attackers. Lakshmi also started an organization to help survivors and a national Stop Acid Attack campaign. She was awarded the International Women of Courage Award from Michelle Obama and numerous other accolades for her work to end these barbaric attacks. But Lakshmi Agarwal's most profound act is to live a fearless and joyful life despite the corrosive assault on her and the discriminations that followed. She hosts a TV show and has become a tireless firebrand activist who spurns all attempts at pity or condescension. He threw acid on my face, not my dreams, she says in her TED Talk. And Lakshmi's dreams are bolder and more inspiring than ever. She chose this scorching orange penance, serving 3 years for drug possession. This was a daredevil way to shorten that long black shadow of prison. Crew 13 was scrambling up the blazing hillside before dawn, clearing lines with saws and hooks and shovels, in teams of McLeods and Pulaskis, each woman leaning on the other for courage and support, wrestling with the fiery furnace to save someone else's mansion, breathing toxic smoke under wild blue sky, scraping meaning into their lives by risking it all. Inmates fighting fire with the fire in their souls. And she was one of them, just promoted to second saw. How sweet that felt, and how scary. In the hissing of flames, the hot and heavy chains. As she clambered up the slope over loose soil and treacherous rocks into the trembling ochre light, she was struck by a boulder. Over 4,000 prisoners fight the deadly wildfires in California alongside civilian firefighters. More than 250 of them are women. For less than $2 an hour, a few benefits, and a chance to reduce prison time, these inmates take on dangerous, back-breaking work from which some of them never return. Shauna Lynn Jones was one of them. She was 22 years old and had less than 2 months left before her release date when she died. Shauna was the first woman inmate in California to die as a firefighter. She was given state honors for her bravery. The Yazidi community of northern Iraq and Syria have been persecuted for centuries. There are less than 500,000 left. ISIL regards the Yazidis as devil worshippers, to plunder, rape, and murder at will. In 2014, ISIL attacked the mountain town of Sanjar and murdered nearly 4,000 Yazidis, destroying their villages and hunting them down like animals. Hundreds of Yazidi girls and women were abducted to be sold as sex slaves and forcibly married to ISIL soldiers. Nadia Murad, winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize, was one of them. She lost her mother and 6 brothers in the Yazidi genocide. A shy and quiet young woman destined to bear the full weight of testimony for her ravaged people. Bought and sold and shamed, tortured and gang raped for attempting to flee, she mustered the courage to escape again in 2016. With the help of a Muslim family, she fled Iraq and was smuggled into Germany. Even before her body could heal, Nadia chose to become the unlikely activist who would bring the horrific crimes of ISIL to international courts. She has repeated her painful story hundreds of times so the world takes notice of the brutal oppression of her community, which is still happening. Today, Nadia Murad is a UN Goodwill Ambassador and has won the world's highest honor for her fearlessness and devotion to stop the Yazidi genocide. What will we do to help her cause?
I am here today not because I want to be. I am terrified. I am here because I believe it is my civic duty to tell you what happened to me while Brett Kavanaugh and I were in high school. I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help. When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling. This is what terrified me the most and has had the most lasting impact on my life. It was hard for me to breathe, and I thought that Brett was accidentally going to kill me. I have been accused of acting out of partisan political motives. Those who say that do not know me. I am an independent person, and I am no one's pawn. Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter, the uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense. They're having fun at my expense. I am an independent person and I am no one's pawn.
As I tell her these stories, my mother holds my hand. She lights up when her mind grasps a detail, or a name sparks a memory of another time and place, when she was fighting fires, challenging the unknown, protecting those she loved with all the resources and courage she possessed. In the shimmering twilight, I see the rebel warrior, the daredevil humanitarian, the champion of the sick and the poor, fading in and out of the swirling shadows of Alzheimer's. Still spoiling for a fight, still knowing wrong from right. Where were all the men, she asks, when all this happened? I squeeze her hand as I lay her down to sleep. I will tell you tomorrow, I say, and turn off the light.